Call the January 6th, 2025 meeting of the Jericho Planning Commission to order. 2026. Oh, right. Oh, yeah, I was reading off the paper. Start over. We'll call the January 6th, 2026 meeting of the Jericho Planning Commission meeting to order. So this is our first meeting of 2026. Happy to be here. Happy New Year. Hope everyone had nice holidays. Our agenda tonight is we'll listen to any public comment, although at the moment there are no members of the public in the room or on the Zoom. We'll approve our minutes of December 16th, have a discussion about the select board's recent work on the 2027 capital budget that will be presented to the town over the next couple of months. Most of our time will be spent tonight continuing our project to consider how to make changes to Jericho's zoning regulations in order to enable more housing with a focus on the moderate growth areas outside the village centers. And we have two topics tonight to talk about two specific zoning districts and also density and dimensions, where Chris did quite a bit of work offline since our last meeting with some members of the planning commission and also quite a bit of research that we'll talk about tonight and try to determine some directions for how we want the amendments to be drafted. Then we'll listen to reports from one another and share, see if we have any other business, then wrap up and plan for our next meeting on February 3rd. Sound like a plan? Any changes needed for the agenda?
I did notice on the agenda, it has zoning district purposes for density and dimension scenarios, and those are just flipped.
You're going to do them in the other order?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, so moving on, then we assume we have no public comment. There's nobody on the Zoom that we can't see or can't hear. If you're there, you could just unmute and chat. Hearing none, then we'll move on to review our minutes. Would someone like to make a motion to approve the minutes? December 16th, 2025.
I will make a motion to approve the minutes.
Okay, Chris, and a second?
I'll second.
Sabina, thank you. Any clarification, edits, corrections to the minutes? Okay, all those in favor of approving the minutes of December 16th, please say yes.
Yes.
Any abstentions?
Yes.
SJ abstains, and any nays or noes?
No, I was a yes.
Oh, you were a yes, not an abstention.
That is correct. I was at the meeting.
Okay, thank you. Okay, next then we'll talk about the 2027 capital budget.
Great. So for Vermont statute, the capital budget is required to be reviewed by the planning commission. And the planning commission can prepare and recommend a 5-year budget that's part of enabling legislation that sets up authority for planning commissions. The capital budget for Jericho is already posted online. It's going to be considered and voted on at the select board's January 15th meeting. So the presentation tonight is really more of an FYI. It's an opportunity for the planning commission to provide comments to the select board prior to the meeting on the 15th. The capital budget really only has 3 items: road improvements, highway equipment vehicles, and the Lee River Road sidewalk. This was the first year that Jericho had a working group with select board and planning commission members to discuss the capital budget, and it started a dialogue, but it didn't really lead to any concrete outcomes. Each of the projects that are up here have processes for identifying costs and plans that identify them as potential projects, or had a process for evaluating them to be in the capital budget. So, for example, the highway department has a system for evaluating road conditions in town and uses that for identifying projects through 2031 for road improvements. The budget for vehicles, they're identified through a replacement plan that goes through 2032. And then the Lee River Road sidewalk was identified as a project in the 2015 bike and pedestrian master plan, which I think has actually led to 3 projects. It's the the sidewalk in Riverside, the one over by the high school and the one on Lee River Road. So I think there are really two questions for the planning commission to consider on this for tonight. And first, if there are any comments on the capital budget to share with the select board. And the second is how we want to prepare for the FY28 capital budget. And there'll be more on that after the first discussion.
So this is what's going to be put in under 2027, but it actually, are all these costs going to be in this 1 year budget, or these are over this 5 year?
These are all on this
That's what I
year's
assumed.
budget.
I
Yes.
just wanted to make sure. Okay, thank you.
But to clarify, that's just current investment. Each one of those has a multi-year of about the same amount in that.
I don't know if it's the same amount, but they do have,
The road improvements have a budget every
Yeah.
year, which is,
so in the material that was sent out, if you look at it, there are columns for 25, 26, 27, 28 with dollar amounts in each of them. I don't remember seeing dollar amounts in the other columns though.
That's
So-
what this.
I don't know if it's
I don't think
determined.
there were in many of them.
Yeah, so I'm thinking it's more maybe on a rolling basis that they.
So this always confuses me, but, so this is fiscal year 27, right, which actually doesn't that start,
In July.
starts in July?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I'm very sorry, but I'm gonna ask one more question.
Don't apologize. That's why we're here.
Is wastewater showing up somewhere else?
So wastewater would not be a capital budget project yet. We don't know exactly what we're going to be doing. Like, once we go through this process that we're going through now with the preliminary engineering report, it'll give us costs that we can then start to think about how to incorporate it into a capital budget, if it goes into a capital budget.
So for example, the 250,000 from last year is not considered towards a capital budget?
It went toward operating, it was in the operating budget.
Got it. Okay, thank you for
Yeah.
clarifying.
And I think it was,
Was I wrong? We had originally proposed 250, but it was less.
I think we asked for 200 and they filled it up.
Yeah. What role, if any, did the planning commission play in coming up with these three numbers? I mean,
I don't think it did.
okay,
Well, potentially our predecessors would have maybe participated in the 2015 bike ped planning, which led to this Lee River sidewalk being scoped and
so
researched.
can I ask that a different way?
Yeah,
What, if this is the extent of the capital budget for this coming year, for example, what role would we think the planning commission would play in those tasks or those items? Because they don't necessarily seem to be specifically planning commission related.
Well, my thoughts on this is that we would want to think about the type of capital improvements that we want the town to be taking on. And then probably first putting money in the operating budget to do a study or a plan or something that cues up what all of those projects would be. So like the bike ped master plan
Mhm.
said, this is what we want all these sidewalks. So now that's like a roadmap for how do we want to implement this over 5 years?
So
10
the
years?
biggest one of those right now would be the wastewater that's potentially in the works,
Yes.
right?
And then, not to complicate it, but I don't know how that would really work on a capital budget, because that would be funded through hopefully the CWSRF loan, or no, I guess
Maybe
we
not
could.
entirely though.
That's right.
Would
That's
be
right. We
kind
would
of
need to
fit
do a
with the-
bond or
with the
something.
base. Yeah.
Yeah.
Seems it would fit with what the sidewalk is. It's something that the town is putting up some money for it. And that's the capital budget we would have to allocate.
Yes.
I just wanna, I see SJ's had her hand up for a little bit. SJ, go ahead.
You're kind of getting to my question, which is more of a basic question, I guess. So, for example, reserve funds are part of the operating budget, not part of the capital budget. And so, yeah, I mean, obviously, the big thing I'm thinking about is wastewater, but also infrastructure in general. And, you know, it's having an infrastructure reserve fund is something that the Affordable Housing Committee had suggested at one point. It's also something that community members have brought up at the kickoff meeting in the fall. And so that feels more like a reserve fund place and less like a capital budget place. And so I think what we're circling around is, yeah, trying to figure out how exactly how the capital budget functions and how we can use it strategically to advance the kinds of projects that we want to see and that our neighbors want to see. I don't know that there's an answer or a clear question there, but that's kind of what I'm struggling with.
Yeah, and I'm thinking back to some of those conversations we had at the joint planning commission select board meetings where we were talking about this. And I do recall that capital budget items are more for like one-time expenses. And it's not like a rolling maintenance budget for trucks or something like that. Like that's under operating, it's not capital. But like buying a new truck would be a capital expense. Maintaining it would be an operating expense.
What, are there still plans for creating a capital improvement plan, like that long-term plan that we had envisioned happening? I know that, Amy from the select board was maybe dabbling in that with some other people. Where does that fit into this?
So I'm gonna go
I know that's
ahead.
probably where.
It's the next question, but I'm just gonna go ahead and move on to that because I think that's where we kind of want to go. The next question is, what does the planning commission want to do to start preparing for the FY28 budget? So Paula is leading that work and she wants to start working on that starting in April, so after the budget stuff is done. So Chris, I don't know if you want to talk or Darren, your experience, because we did have that working group with Amy and you and I and Paula and Brian met. So we're trying to come up with a process. So that's where I was saying before that we've started a dialogue on how to structure this capital planning process.
But that was more for the capital plan, right, than the capital budget.
Well, the budget would be a component.
Yeah,
The budget would be a component of the plan, I think.
But the plan is the longer range strategic.
Well, I think the plan combines your policy decisions documented, your goals and sort of tying it to your town plan, and then your 0 to 20 year kind of really rough,
Right.
and then your 0 to 5 capital budget.
the capital plan would be the basis for your capital budget.
Right.
But we don't, right now, we don't have that.
Right, which is what I think we were encouraging.
We're trying to figure out how to
Get there.
Yeah.
Right. Right. Well, yes, and I'm not remembering all the details from that meeting, but it would seem like we would want, on one hand, a vision of projects, on the other hand, an understanding of money, or a sense of money. And what I was hoping we could get to was a place where the town was leveraging its assets in a way that could allow for us to roll from one project to the next as one is finished and one bond wraps up, another one sort of is already sort of, we maintain this maybe
steady
level
state,
of debt,
Right.
but we're always moving forward with projects.
Right.
And that's where I was hoping we could get to. Something that's a longer range, more strategic. Because this seems, I mean, this is more reactionary than anything else. It's
That
like,
is-
well,
well.
we need to repave the road, so wouldn't we one road every 5 years?
What I found, I don't know the right word is, pretty helpful, reassuring, is that each of these, they weren't just random. There is a 5-year
Mhm.
strategy for at least the first two, that there's a process for coming up with what is included on that. And then the Lee River Road was identified in 2015. So it's not like they're not just random.
No, I'm not, I didn't mean to suggest they were
Yeah.
random, but I mean that the first two are, you could just write those in for the next 100 years. I mean, those are just, they're not, but they're not moving the town forward. It's like repainting your house every 2 years, it's like you have to do it, but it's not, you're not building the addition that you could house your parents with, or, you know what I mean? It's not moving the town forward, it's maintaining. And so I was hoping we could get to a more strategic place of sort of longer term.
Sabina.
Oh, SJ has her hand up again too. Do you need to go first, SJ?
Nope.
Because I'm introducing a sort of a tangent, which I'm hoping you'll indulge me with just saying. So the state of Vermont municipal planning guides are looking for pilot communities to help with the creation of the guides, and one of the categories which makes you eligible to be a community that participates is you are interested in integrating capital planning into annual budget cycle, but do not currently have a capital plan. And so that would, of the several choices for what makes a community a likely candidate, that one struck me as maybe the best one for us.
Is it VLCT or is it
It's
ACCD?
It's neither of those. I forget I'm forgetting which.
Okay.
I'm forgetting, it doesn't matter,
Sure.
but point being, if it's something that we really want to pursue, I know that the first deadline was December 31st, but when I attended this webinar, they were like, don't worry, it's like rolling admissions, and if you fill the criteria, we'll consider you even if it's after the fact. So not to belabor it here and now, but if you're interested, I think I already sent it to you during the holiday break, so maybe you didn't get to see it.
Sorry about that.
No, it's okay. Well, it's a holiday break.
I don't recall.
I wasn't.
Okay.
Just because I'm late. Anyway, I'm happy to forward it, and we can decide if it actually is something that we should maybe pursue, because that would be a way to get help
Yeah,
in doing this.
yeah.
And the idea is that, the climate, they're looking for ways to help towns build climate resiliency into all of their documents. So there's a section for like, are you doing your town plan? How would you build climate resiliency into your town plan? We've already done that, so.
We submitted an application for that.
You did? Oh,
To
okay.
help with capital budget.
Oh.
Yeah.
Excellent.
I wasn't sure if that's
So
what it
just
was.
stop me from
I wasn't sure if that's what it was. We started talking about it's really coming out of a resiliency focus.
Yes.
Yeah.
But one of the
But yeah,
outcomes, yeah, would be.
Yeah, it was
right.
it was like town plan planning, capital budget. I can't remember what the third one was. But the capital plan seemed to be the best fit for us, so we submitted something.
Good.
Yeah.
All right. Excellent. Okay, sorry for that diversion then.
Can I, Chris, can I ask you, and you were talking about some specifics. So I think what Sabina's identified is a good way for us to get some funding to make this happen. So the question I have is does the PC have or want to really have any input into the capital plan? Things like, should we set a goal for sewer? Should we set a goal for long-term capital improvements, things like water systems, road upgrades, sidewalks? Should those all be things that the PC is presenting to the select board saying, we believe we need a sidewalk from Jericho Elementary to Jericho Center?
Well, I guess I,
And put that into the capital plan, that it's some,
right. In my mind, that's exactly the kind of strategic thinking that the planning commission should be doing or could be doing. And I think that especially when you think of the Lee River sidewalk as, 10-year lead time, that's like, what's on our list 10 years from now? I mean,
Right.
we don't know. So,
Well, Chris was just talking to me about this a little bit today, that the town plan really has a lot of information that we can mine as we work on this with Paula starting in the spring, where we can, because we did articulate what the long-term goals would be, but we have to translate those into projects.
right.
And then those projects need to be scoped and prices need to be estimated and the public needs to be engaged so that priorities can be set. Because we have to go from like the town plan, which is a lot of like a big wish list, as much as we try to be tangible and practical and feasible and action oriented and all those other things, to a justifiable budget that the select board will follow and spend money on. And that's a big chasm that we have to cross. And I think we're all disappointed that we didn't really make any, we collectively, PC a lot with the select board, or this, we didn't make any substantial progress on that as much as we wanted to over the last 2 years. For all kinds of reasons, some good, some not so good, whatever. We didn't make much progress, but we're gonna bang our head against the brick wall again, and we're gonna keep trying and say, yes, I'm speaking for us now, like, yes, we do wanna work on it. Yes, we do think it's important. I think our feedback on this is tactical, not strategic. Yes, we wanna work with you and we wanna make it transformative. And we want to make the capital budget our expression of what we've already set forth in the town plan. And let's get going.
And I don't think there's like a piece of paper with a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 steps. I think you just have to like figure it out.
You just have to jump in and start doing the work. But I also think it would clearly be something that would be updated every year because I think it was 2015. I mean, that was pre-pandemic. The Lee River Road sidewalk. I mean, think of the things that have happened in the last 10 years. Like we need to, build in some ability to.
I think one of the things that surprises me, just going back to the wastewater too, is that this notion that the capital plan has to have an identified project, whereas a reserve fund can be garnered for lots of different things without knowing exactly what you need and how much it's going to cost. Is that what I'm hearing? Was that like how we got the wastewater funding last year? So when so again, just to my ignorance, because I had been hopeful that it was like the beginning of a placeholder that would continue, even though we didn't know exactly how much was going to be needed.
Right. But that's right, what Chris explained, because the money was spent on consulting and not a fixed asset, there's nothing hard of value that's gonna have a lifespan that you can see. It's all just soft costs, and so it's all been funded by the operating budget and potentially reserve funds. What from a couple webinars that I went to, the select board does not have a lot of latitude to have very open-ended reserve funds. They have to be really pretty specific, and they should have written policies around them in the way that our conservation reserve fund does. And the wastewater was pretty specific, like this is what it's for and this is what it's gonna pay for. And my understanding is the same thing is true in the capital budget, and that if the select board wants to change and be like, oh, Lee River sidewalk didn't cost $350, it only cost $300, and we're gonna take that 50, they can't just take that 50 and willy-nilly that, well, on the capital budget, actually, the select board has a little more latitude than an operating budget, but it does need to be pretty explicit. And the discipline that Chris has brought to the conversation is that it needs to be backed up by the data and the estimate and the scope and the process and the public engagement. And that doesn't need to take, 10 years. You could maybe do all those things in a week, depending on the project, but you can't shortcut it too much. So it is a lot of work.
How would an official map help sort of move this needle in the in that, would it be another tool in the toolbox, assist what's in the town plan and kind of help us, or does it really not necessarily give us any kind of advantage for determining?
I don't think they're related. Yeah, the official map is more about the town identifying where it wants to.
But if we said we want to make a park here, then that would
That would go on there, and if it's gonna be developed, the town would have the first option to buy the property.
Right, I'm just saying, would it help us then lay the groundwork to do the study, to then do the project, to then justify the cost of it? You know?
Right, so for your example about like the open space, we would need to have an open space plan first. And then that would, we could use the results of that to go on an official map. So like right now, the only thing I think that we have is the feasibility study for the wastewater system, for the 3 villages, identify potential septic leach field sites. Like we could take that information and use those sites and put them on an official map. So if someone's going to come in and develop that site, you can say, oh, well, we actually want to use it for a potential leach field.
Right.
Yeah, so that's sort of an example of how it would form the process.
Or we could look at the 2015 biped plan and see like what was identified on there that hasn't yet been built, it's not on the map anywhere. But that's the whole plan.
Wouldn't the official map though nonetheless give us, for example, locations for infrastructure? So if we're going to have community or town-wide septic or water, we would map out where those pipes would go. If we were going to bury the power lines on Route 15, we would map out where they would go. And that could then drive the capital plans as we have identified this particular activity to occur to support this other zoning regulation or zoning requirement we have. Therefore, we should set money aside for it.
They're kind of companions. I don't know that you need one before the other, and the map's sort of an illustration of what maybe several items in the capital budget could
I don't disagree with what you're saying.
I think you need something first that you can use for both.
Mhm.
So the town plan calls for doing village master plans. So a village master plan for Jericho Corners could say, we want to put a park here. We want to put a sidewalk here. All of those components could then go onto an official map. All of those components we could then start budgeting for in a capital budget.
All right, so for now, at this moment,
Are there any comments from the planning commission?
That's what it's about.
Oh, sorry.
SJ. Thank you, Sabine.
So I guess just an observation then, looking at, sorry, you all can, I'm not looking great today, but you all can see me if you want. Hi. Looking at just the numbers for this year in isolation, without seeing last year's numbers and the projected numbers, in addition to not having the context of the capital plan, makes this conversation difficult to have, because we're not looking at a big picture, and we've got lots of questions that probably have answers, and we can't have those answers available for the conversation. The other thing, just an observation that in looking at the budget, so last year, there's quite a sizable chunk of money for the town garage, and that feels like an example project that we could maybe use as a just, what kind of planning went into that. It's interesting on the budget that you shared with us, Chris. It's just that one fiscal year 26 big number, and then there's nothing from 25, and there's nothing after it. So again, like I feel like without a plan to really understand what these projects are, it's difficult to have these conversations about just a floating number.
I think what we're all experiencing is that we just don't have a capital plan. That's the point.
What are you specifically asking of us relative to these big numbers? Is there some official action we're supposed to take?
Couple reasons it's here today, right? So by state statute, the capital budget is supposed to go to the planning commission for review. So I don't know if this is the first year that's set up, but I know it's something that like all forwarded to us, and so that's why it's on the agenda tonight. The capital budget's already, I think, baked. It's already out in the public domain. The select board's going to be discussing and taking an action on it on the 15th. So there's not really I don't know how much opportunity there is to influence it. It's more of like an FYI. Let's start thinking about the 27-28 budget and what we might want to be doing to be more engaged with that. And even then, I don't think it's like we're going to end up updating the capital budget. It's going to be more that we might have projects we want to include in the operating budget to queue up capital projects.
The focus starting in the spring should probably be the capital plan. The longer.
Yes.
Yeah.
So thank you for checking the box by sending
Yeah.
it, basically, is what you're saying. I'm just gonna say it out loud.
I would want to kind of reiterate what I said earlier, which was like, thanks for sharing it with us. I don't know if we want to draft like an email back to Paula that says that, our reaction to it is that, thank you for sharing it with us. It's, at the moment, it's pretty tactical, and we're looking forward to working together with her and the select board to transform it over the next year or so into a more transformative, robust component of a full-fledged capital plan.
That's a
But I
nicer thing to say.
But I agree with Chris that we don't have the ammunition at the moment to make any changes to this thing, because we don't have any projects with any numbers around them. And so that's it. And so that's sort of like our takeaway is that next year we want to be locked and loaded and ready, and maybe we will and maybe we won't have projects for the capital budget.
This is more like getting in the good habit of us.
Right. So we're kindergartners.
Yeah. Starting the dialogue.
Within that, does it make, I'm just going to suggest that perhaps we should have a committee that is going to start looking at the baseline of it, which is the official map.
So I think that was your next question.
Yeah, that's actually,
And it sounds like we'll know whether we got accepted as a pilot community by the time we meet again. My notes say they're taking applications through January.
yeah.
So
Yeah, but I have an email from him. I have to get back to him because he wants to follow up. Whoever's coordinating it wants to follow up with us to talk about our application. So
perfect.
Chuck, I saw you had your hand up.
I resonate with what Eric said in terms of taking a really broad view. But this is an opportunity for you to have an impact on the budget for this year. And I don't think that planning commission should get tangled up into what's a capital item and what's an operating item. That's like a financial strategy, that someone else will deploy. In terms of impact on the budget, yeah, we need a big hunk of money in the reserve fund for the wastewater system. It's like, I think you ought to be really loud and clear. We need that. And it needs to be big because this is the money we're going to use to buy the land. We need to be able to be somewhat agile in terms of buying land. So there's got to be the money there and kind of already allocated and clear to the public what it's for. Otherwise, we're not going to be able to draw up plans because we don't know what land we're going to, it could hold the whole thing up for a year. You guys made an enormous commitment to livability along our busiest roads in your zoning. So you're telling people on over 2 miles of Route 15, we're going to deliver a boulevard life to you because you sold a boulevard life when you made the decision to force people to live next to Route 15. The drawing's right there. So, the select board needs to know that to deliver on the promise that we're making to people that we're forcing to live next to the road, we have to make a major investment in boulevard speeds, which we have not accomplished in Jericho Center. The town doesn't know how to do. This needs to be a major area of investment going forward. Right now, if you force, this is where you want low and middle income people to live. If you force them to build right next to the road, their house will forever be worth less than one that's 100 feet away, unless you turn that road into boulevard speeds and make being next to the road an asset. And right now it's not in 15. I also think this is the time for you to put your flag, wave the flag about a town manager. This whole discussion about the capital budget is just plain silly. It's an illustration of the lack of expertise that we have in the executive function in the town. Planning commission should be forming a committee. You should be interrogated by someone who's doing a capital. And really sort of, this has been in the plan forever. We don't have the expertise to do this properly, as demonstrated by this conversation. You are not being used effectively because we don't have the professional staff with this CFO capacity. I think those are the kinds of messages that you can give to the select board on this year's budget while what Eric is discussing is in work.
Thank you. I have to say, I hear you, Chuck, which is why I was asking about why was it that we were able to get the 250, or we asked for 250 last year, and we're not asking. Are we not asking for funds?
This year, the request for wastewater funding came from the wastewater task force.
Okay.
And it was $135,000, and it was for very specific things. There was I can't remember what they are off the top of my head, but there were like 4 things that totaled 100.
You need to remind them we're serious and we're going to buy some land next year.
And the reason why the planning commission did it last year is that
You didn't have it.
we were the body that was focused on it at that time.
So that, and again, is very project specific as opposed to, we know we're gonna have some long-term infrastructure needs that are bigger than this one piece. Okay. And is there a housing committee or community economic development committee that's asking for other money to help realize some of the long-term investments that we need, or are we the only ones on that front?
I don't know the other committees. The only other plan I know of that I've used it as an example a couple of times already is the Viking pit.
Right.
Actually, I think there was a plan a couple of years ago for some stormwater retention facilities, and that got
At the green.
right. That got funded. That led to a couple projects that got funded, but I think there was all grant funding.
Oh, I don't think any of that went forward, so I must be talking about something different.
Okay, So we gave you comments on the capital budget.
So I guess, is there anyone on the planning commission that wants to follow up being on a working group to sort of think through this a little more, so when April comes, we can.
I do.
You can, three's good. Okay, great. That was the most productive.
You have no idea how unproductive we could be sort of together.
I guess following up something Susan said, do we want to put together a letter for the plan to the select board that says anything?
I believe that's a appropriate step for us to take as planning commission and to sort of exert the sense that we do have a role in this.
Well, and to emphasize the long-term strategic plan and the need for that.
So are you guys okay if Chris and I draft something using the minutes of, and our discussion tonight?
Yes.
Yes.
And for
Saying
that,
on behalf of the planning commission.
yeah.
I trust you to not
You
be
did
in
right,
the
yeah.
starting committee for it.
No, but I know that Nancy's got it. It's on the recording, so
Okay.
I think we're good.
Great.
So it's good.
We're gonna move on.
Yes,
Okay.
please.
Our second agenda item is continuing our discussion on enable housing, which is looking at what zoning can do and village centers to make it easier to build housing. This is coupled with recent work, the Conservation Commission and with the forest cover and how that might be integrated into anything, natural resources and the natural resource overlay. Here's just a recap on the charge from the select board, and I think we've done a good job of moving through all of them. As Jay, I think it was the last meeting, I think you did a really good job. It was just sort of informal, but you were like, check. Yep, we've discussed a lot. We've like covered all of our ground here. So I think that's been really good. I have updated the timeline for our work through the end of April. So after tonight, there are still a few big subjects for us to tackle. So one is the question about mandatory PUD reviews that Chris Flynn had raised back in November. And the other is draft housing incentives for small houses. So I want to look at it a little more, make sure the planning commission understands the incentives that we currently have and go from there. We also need to get into the specific changes for the natural resources overlay. And I'll put together and implement an outreach strategy for our recommendations to get it out to the public and to get more feedback on that. And ideally, we could be announcing for a public hearing in April. Making the announcement in April.
Are we not doing a meeting on the 20th?
It's
No.
the town meeting reimagined.
Oh, okay. I'll take that off my calendar.
Repurpose it.
You at the table.
So I usually just kind of go through these goals, no change in the goals that we've been talking about, and then there's no change in the guidance that we've been talking about. So our first discussion point is a follow-up from our last meeting when we discussed the proposed amendments to lot size and frontage requirements. I'm going to review a little bit what we've talked about and then share some scenarios that I pulled together for how these changes could manifest themselves in development projects. So this slide's just a recap of the model neighborhoods that we reviewed at both December 2nd and December 16th. They represent the densities that the commission thought reflected what we want to see here in Jericho. And they range from the compact walkable neighborhoods in Burlington, Essex Junction, Bristol, and Sunnyview, and then the less dense neighborhood of Bentley Park, which includes Snowflake Drive and Ross Lane. So let's see, hang on, last year. Well, okay, so shown here are existing lot size and dimensions for Jericho zoning districts and recommended changes that reflect, well,
Aren't you here?
yeah, but this isn't right. This gets into practical realities of septic systems.
Well, but you were talking about small lot.
Well, I'll just go off of this. So, and because I know at some point I'm going to get back on track.
Oh,
Oh, here we are.
see what it is.
Yeah, I think I am.
It was just the order was switched.
Yeah.
Okay.
So these are the existing lot size and dimensions for Jericho zoning districts and the recommended changes that look like what we look at in the model neighborhoods. So there's no change on this slide in terms of what we look at previous meetings. At the last meeting, there was a suggestion to do the model development scenarios based on these proposed changes and whether they support the type of housing that we want to see. And the next couple of slides are going to do, I'll walk through that. What I have highlighted here, the circle around the 80-foot lot width for low density residential, that's something that I'd like the planning commission to discuss based on what we are going to see with the model scenarios. So the first scenario is the minimum lot size for the village district, and this is showing a 4-unit building. The diagram markings and the dimensions, which they're depicted similarly in all the scenarios. They show the lot size dimensions on the outside of the site, so you can see the 217 feet is the depth of the lot, and then the 50 feet is the width of the lot.
Can I just clarify one thing?
Yeah.
Since somebody might be listening who's not been in all our discussions. The dimensional standards that are shown in the table are the ones that we're discussing changing to.
Yes.
And
so,
what's
yeah.
the current minimum lot size in the village district is 1 acre. And your illustration and the table was talking about a minimum lot size of a 1/4 acre.
Yes, this is why I have my notes that I read from, because I now remember writing down somewhere that the numbers that are shown up here in red are the proposed changes, and those are the changes that we're going to be looking at on these next couple of slides.
I have 2 related clarifying questions. Did you confirm with Chris Flynn about, does lot coverage include any impervious surface like a driveway? And related to that, does the driveway need to be within the setback? Because it does in some communities.
So the driveway can be in the setback.
It can be outside the setback limit.
If there's a 15-foot side yard setback, the driveway can be in that 15 feet.
Whether it's paved or not.
Correct.
Okay.
And then for your first question on what qualifies as lot coverage, that is one of the issues that Chris Flynn has flagged for us to resolve and clarify for the zoning regulations because it's not clear. All right. So anyway, so what we're looking at here, the solid lines on the outside of are all dimensions. The dotted lines represent the setbacks. And for each of these scenarios, the house and the specifications of the development features, these all came out of model buildings that are included in Vermont's Home for All toolkit. So that's where I'm getting the dimensions from, the square foot for the units, and the number of units that are in each one.
You didn't just make it up at a bar in Burlington.
I didn't just make it up, but not this time.
Yeah.
These are really great, by the way.
Yes.
These
Oh,
do well.
thanks. So this is a 1/4 acre lot. It's got 50-foot frontage, 270-foot lot depth. This is a depth that's similar to what we saw in Bristol, Vermont. The site accommodates a building. It's 20 feet wide, 70 feet long. It includes 2 studio apartments and 2 one-bedroom apartments. This scenario does not take into account septic capacity, which would likely need to be accommodated offsite.
Chris, how would that change if we went away from a studio and 1 bedroom, which implies 1 or 2 person family, to something that would be a family with 2 kids or something like that, where you have 1 bedroom, 3 bedrooms, which is does this still work in that type of scenario?
So, what do you mean?
Well, the scenario here is we've got a number of bedrooms per unit, 2 for studios and 2 for 1 bedrooms. If everything goes fine, there's a role for those. But for a family with 2 children or even 1 children, a studio is not going to work. So how are we accommodating that part of the?
Yeah. So these are just examples of a building with different types of housing units. And some of the other examples we're going to look at are like, I think it's a 3-bedroom home or a 4-bedroom home and ADU. Anything that fits within the setback dimensions. I mean, you can put however many units,
As many bedrooms as you want.
as long as you're going to meeting your septic requirement.
Yeah, it's really more about the perimeter, the footprint and the height.
Mhm.
The scale of the building is 20 by 70 and however many square feet it has and how you divide it up on the inside is up to you.
So I would suggest that perhaps we eliminate that number of bedrooms for some, because some people might look at that and say that is a restriction, rather than have as many bedrooms as you want.
I see. Well, I included these on here because I think SJ asked at the last.
Yeah, this is my fault. And I was brilliant because this is so helpful. But
Yeah.
the point, one of the things that's great about this is just an example. There's a gazillion, well, not a gazillion. There's maybe 3 other examples of 4-unit buildings in that toolkit that do break up into different numbers of bedrooms, and that is really the thing about that toolkit that's nice is that all of the 4-unit buildings that they give examples of are either 20 by 70 or 30 by 70, basically a 2,100 square foot building footprint. And regardless of how you cut it up inside, that's really helpful because my question was, okay, we've got all of these setbacks. How does that work on a minimum lot, and does that accommodate a fourplex, which is now allowable in every zoning district? And so, first of all, knowing that the fourplexes that are in the toolkit, obviously that's not the only thing you can build, but it's a nice standard to reference, have roughly a 2,100 square foot building footprint. And so being able to see the dimensions of that within a minimum lot with the setbacks carved out give you an idea of how much space you're working with and what is possible. The nice take-home message is that for all of these, when we get through them, a fourplex is totally doable. It's interesting to see as we go through these examples how restrictive the setbacks are in the village and commercial district. They are much more restrictive and really prohibit achieving a 60% maximum coverage. They average more 30% of the lot that's buildable. And granted, you can put driveways into the setbacks and stuff, but so anyway, all of that is to say, like, just to understand what these random setbacks are and how they influence a minimum lot and what you can place, how big of a building you can place on it, and then the scale of that. This was super duper helpful.
Great. And just to like make your point about what we're looking at here. So this is a 50-foot wide lot. It's got 15-foot setbacks on either side, which totals 30 feet, which means that the building envelope in the middle is 20 feet. And then, like SJ was saying, there were a couple model homes in the toolkit that were 20 feet wide. So it works. This scenario shows the minimum lot size for the commercial district, and this is a 3-unit building. It's a 1/4 acre lot that has an 80-foot frontage and 136-foot depth. That's a depth that's similar to what we saw in Essex, in the Essex Junction neighborhood. When I say it's similar, it's like within 20 feet. This accommodates a building. It's 30 feet wide and 70 feet long. It includes a 1-bedroom apartment and 2 3-bedroom apartments. So I think that gets at what you were asking about, Eric. I mean, some of these have 4 bedrooms in them. This scenario also does not consider septic capacity. This third scenario, and for all of these, I'm just using the minimum lot width to start with. and then using the depth of the lot just to meet what the minimum lot size is, right? So in this scenario here, the minimum lot size, it's 1 acre. This includes a single family home and an ADU. You could do other things. This is just what I just for this example. This is the lot dimension that I want to get some feedback on from the planning commission. If you use the minimum 80-foot lot width, you need a lot depth of over 500 feet to get to that 1 acre minimum lot size. The two of the model neighborhoods we looked at in Essex Junction and Bristol, they had similar lot widths, but none of them had depths that were like this. Just for context, so the large Italianate home that's like 3 doors over here, Vermont 15, that has a lot depth that's similar to this. It goes from Route 15 all the way back to the Brown River. That's roughly around 550 feet. So it's really deep, and that lot's 260 feet wide. So it's just a very different
But
type of
that's,
site, but it has the depth.
that's, that's if the lot only meets the minimum road frontage.
Correct.
Like if this lot were wider, if it were like 160 feet wide, it would be half as deep.
Exactly. Right.
Okay.
This is just saying you can go down to 80 feet, and if you did to do that, you would have a lot that's 540 feet deep to meet your 1 acre minimum lot size requirement.
My comment and complaint about that, and I wrote it down before we came in, is that this creates the old repetition of the 10-acre bowling alleys that we have all around the town, all around the state, because of that minimum lot frontage and 10-acre minimum lot size. I get it. I understand the purpose of it. Visually, I think that's not something we want to present to people. And I think the town itself is not in favor of more long, narrow lots that divide up what could be good land.
Yeah, and I also think that this sets up a scenario where you don't have the width at a 1 acre lot size. Someone should be able to have their own well and septic on their site. They have enough land to do that. At this width, with your setbacks for a septic field, like I'm not sure you don't have enough width at 80 feet to do that. Now, these are all things that the market will take care of, and no one has to do this. This is just a minimum. But the question I have is like, do we even want to allow a minimum lot size of 80 feet for the living?
Right, so what's the benefit?
Road frontage, you mean?
Yes.
So doesn't that mean that there needs to be an appropriate ratio between the minimum frontage and the minimum lot area? Because in the other lots, I assume the frontage was even smaller, but because the lot was smaller, it didn't create such a wacky geometry.
Correct.
So it's really the ratio that's the problem.
I think so. Yes.
Potentially.
Yes.
So you either make the minimum road frontage wider, or you make the minimum lot area smaller. Like, what's the ratio of the others? Actually, if you do the math.
Oh, I don't have those.
I have another question. What's the rationale for decreasing the frontage to 80 feet?
We were using the model neighborhoods that we liked in terms of having a nice village scale with a repetition of.
But we're in a
buildings.
different zone
Correct, but that's where the 80 feet came
now.
from.
Okay.
So that you could potentially have houses built pretty close together if you wanted a neighborhood.
Right, but you would.
And also we're talking about wanting to make infill feasible and subdividing current 3-acre lots feasible. And so it may not be long and skinny, it may be an L, it may be a weird shape. The minimum of an 80 feet, I don't know. I understand the concern about the skinny. I think that the illustration of using the minimum available to see what you can build and are those numbers realistic and feasible to work with is illustrative and helpful to make sure that the dimensions that we're choosing make sense. I think to Eric's point, like, yeah, this isn't an example that you want to that you want to necessarily use as a like, here's a prime example of what we expect you to be able to do in the low density residential. But this is a good check for us of like, yep, these numbers work. This fits. This can happen.
Can I just ask a clarifying point? And did you update the slide from what was that you gave us? Because I can't see the slide here, but it looks like it might say 80 on the bottom.
Mhm.
And the one that I'm looking at says 150.
Oh, you're ahead. You've jumped ahead.
No, it's this.
No.
No,
I sent you that too. It was a correction. You
Oh.
corrected it.
Maybe.
Yes.
Maybe.
So
You're not on this slide.
No.
No,
I am on that
No.
side, but I'm on my phone with it.
Got it. Sorry.
previous one.
Yes.
No, I'm not on that side. I'm on the one
Got it.
before. It was type.
Was a mistake. Yes.
This conversation, I'm like, what are you talking about?
Where's the one now?
I'm so confused. Okay. Thank you. So that was,
Yes.
so this is, thank you, because the next one does show what it looks like at 150 versus 80, but
Right.
it's mislabeled.
Correct.
Got it. Okay, thank you. Sorry.
So, food for thought. This is showing if we went to an alternative would be to increase the minimum lot frontage from 80 to 150, which is more like the frontages in Jericho's Sunnyview and Bentley Park neighborhoods. And this is still a reduction for the current frontage requirement in the low density residential zone, which is 200 feet. So this scenario shows the same building we looked at before. It's just on a lot with 150-foot frontage. There's also a lot that is easier to accommodate septic. It's got a more usable building envelope. So I think that's just worth thinking through. We can go on. Okay.
And you're hoping that we're going to address that though, right? Like one of the key questions for us tonight is whether or not we want to go with the 80 versus the 150.
Yes. Now, I should also say, like, there's nothing preventing someone from doing a lot like this with the 80-foot frontage requirement. So it may not be an issue at all.
They can go bigger, but they can't go.
They can't go less than 80, right? And in this scenario here, they would not be able to go less than 150. But then to SJ's point, if you're going to be subdividing existing lots, you might want flexibility to do weird types of configurations.
Especially because most existing lots, the house is smack dab in the middle of the parcel.
Right. I mean, yeah, that long skinny also, potentially keeps some of the space open, contiguous across multiple lots, if that. The difference is if that building, well, I was gonna say, if the house is close to the road, not if so much if the house is set way back.
Or if they're staggered, you end up with a wave form of housing.
Right.
And so our goal though is our goal to care about how people use their lots, or is our goal to just get more housing on lots?
More housing. I think.
I mean, sort of.
But I guess my question is, and I'm fully in favor of more housing, but if we don't like the spaghetti lots that we have in the 10-acre zoning, do we want to allow for them in the 20-acre zoning? I mean,
I think it's do we want to preclude them?
sure.
Yeah. By requiring a larger minimum lot, but
I think if we really cared, then I think if you allow the long skinny lot, you're gonna get it. Because you could get more, I mean, we see that all over town in the 10-acre zoning. I'm not saying I'm not saying I'm necessarily opposed to the spaghetti lot, I'm just saying if we don't want it, then we should think about it.
it caught my attention because these dimensions just don't align with anything that we look at in the modeling.
Except isn't that where the 80 came from in the first place?
The depth
Oh,
isn't reflected in any of the model neighborhoods.
Gotcha.
Because the 80-foot those model neighborhoods are entirely different kind of zone, a district.
Yeah, the only neighborhood that we looked at as a model neighborhood that was 1 acre was Bentley Park. And it was at 1.2. I think that was like 195.
You have an amazing memory, Chris. That's exactly right.
Oh, great.
1.2 was the
I
lot
got lucky.
size, and 195 was the frontage. You're incredible.
Got lucky.
But to SJ's point, it does seem like the smaller frontage gives you a hope and a prayer of having an existing 3 acre lot eventually potentially get subdivided.
Mhm.
Because you could slice off a slice, whereas if the frontage requirement could, if it's only 50 feet less, it might not be enough to get someone relief from that requirement, and they'd be like, well, I could do it, except can't meet this frontage. And I mean, then I think about it, it's like, well, can you share a driveway? There's lots of other things to potentially mitigate the development impact.
But if our goal is to make it easier.
Right, if our goal is to make it easier and we're thinking about infill, and we want it to be as flexible as possible.
Do we
Then this
need
is-
to have them, do we need to require their own driveway, or can they have zero road frontage if they are on a driveway that's behind, or if their driveway is an extension of an existing driveway, so they're now behind it?
Like if you share a driveway, why do you need frontage at all? Like I don't have frontage at my house.
I believe there's a requirement that you have to have frontage on a public or private road for a lot.
But what if you share a driveway?
There are violations.
Well, no, my driveway comes off a private road,
Yeah,
so that's my frontage. Actually, our lot goes all the way down to the road, so never mind, but which is probably one reason why the lot was drawn that way. They didn't need that frontage, but
I'm pretty sure I saw that in zoning, that a lot has to be on a frontage.
Couldn't we make an exception that if you are using a shared driveway that meets fire department, police, and blah, blah, blah requirements, you don't need frontage?
well, so a driveway can support up to 3 lots, right? Or 4, we made it 4. More than 4, it needs to be a road. So how does a driveway relate to the frontage?
How do you have 4 houses on a driveway if they don't all have road frontage?
Right.
I don't know if this is a problem. I mean, I don't know of any.
Well, it is a problem. Oh, it could be a limiter because potentially, let's say this lot were different and you wanted to build that ADU as a new house and you wanted to subdivide this lot. And you're like, here, you can have a right of way. You can be on my driveway, but why does that lot in the back need frontage at all? As long as it has a it needs access to a public or a private road. Transport, whatever, passable for emergency vehicle, blah, 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 like what Eric was saying, but why does it need frontage at all?
Yeah, I don't know.
Are landlocked lots allowed?
Well, right, so, actually, I know why. Well, I don't know why, I'm guessing. Probably because part of the goal of requiring frontage is to prevent too much, penetration into woods and natural areas and driving the development to be closer to existing development and existing road and existing access, so that you're not having these like super long driveways.
But it wouldn't be an isolated super long driveway, it'd be a driveway that goes by other houses. It's more like a street in that case. As opposed to a house that's, 500 yards or further from the nearest road. That might be, Chris, you can look into that, just sort of
Yeah, I think I'm trying to figure out what the question is. It's how does lot frontage work for lots that
Well,
They don't have road front.
With a shared driveway.
Would a shared driveway eliminate the need for frontage?
Yes.
right, so what, almost like a David Way question, like what are the benefits of requiring frontage? And what are the disadvantages of not requiring frontage and vice
Yeah.
versa?
yeah.
And thinking about infill, subdivision, shared driveways, because it would be way better if people shared driveways than had, lots of driveways cutting onto the road. But then is that what gives you these wacky parcel lines, which are just on paper, but the downside of wacky parcel lines is that ultimately does that eliminate the opportunity to build housing that has decent access to roads and driveways? Granted, though, you don't necessarily want to multiply lots of very scattered, hard to service development. And that might be one reason why the frontage would be required.
So like I know the house across the street subdivided the back. I put a lot back there, right? But that's in a village, right? This is in the low density residential zone, and I don't know if that matters. As long as you're meeting the minimum lot size. It probably doesn't matter.
What did you just say though? The current standards in the village are 120 feet of frontage.
It's a village center, sorry.
Okay.
So it has no frontage requirement?
I'd have to look and see.
Yeah, like how did they do that without,
I don't.
or if the driveway is considered shared, then that counts as their quote unquote frontage.
Frontage, yeah.
Is the frontage also shared?
So I need to look into this to be able to cogently describe what the issue is, and I'll follow up with some of you to make sure that I'm understanding it correctly.
But it does seem like it's my personal reaction to the two examples you showed is, while the second example, sure, seems to make more sense, and yes, spaghetti lots have their detractors, and yes, we don't really want to multiply them. Overwhelming need to provide flexibility and infill, as long as the 80-foot actually works, which is what you showed, that it would in fact work, then it seems, and that to me, I would be okay with that, not requiring it to be 150, to reducing it to that. Unless I'm missing something.
I know that this issue we're talking about is not an issue for PUDs, because there's a PUD that was north, it was just 3 lots, and it's all off of a private driveway. But then they had to designate if it's not the size open space. Right? So I don't know how. So I'll look into this and see how this works for standards of it.
Yeah, and it's sort of like road frontage versus driveway frontage. How are those things distinguished? Because you're right, you quoted the regulation correctly. It's private or public road.
Right, and I think the minimum width for a private road is at 60.
Sorry, and is that our regulation or is that state regulation?
That's in ours. Our zoning regulations require lots to have frontage on a public or private road.
Cool. We're in charge of that.
Yeah, but I think what Eric said is right, that I think there's that a landlocked, but that's different than no access. Landlocked no access is different than no frontage with access.
Landlocked with an easement.
Yeah,
Yeah.
with access. Yeah. Does anybody, I mean, that was my opinion. Does anybody agree or disagree with that 80 versus 150 reaction?
I support the principles that you said. right? And sort of going back to my statements, like, what do we care enough? Like, what is our ultimate goal? The ultimate goal is more housing, more flexibility, and allowing property owners to do whatever they can to create something that works for them without having to go through a PUD process, right? That was the whole idea. So given that, well, this may not visually appeal to me, that's not my decision, I don't feel like.
Right, unless there were some significant downside, but it's the low density residential district where our future land use map is calling for infill, so isn't it our responsibility, as SJ has pointed out, to provide as much opportunity for infill? So what is so terrible about this outcome, I guess? That would be something we would, as you say, zoning it, which should be designed to avoid.
Right. I mean, like this could create problems for where to site your septic field, but we've discussed that before, and it's just not something where that's a property owner.
Not our problem.
Yeah.
Right.
You pay your neighbor $30,000 and then there's no septic over there.
No, oh, go ahead.
The question though is, how many of our 3 acre lots are 544 feet deep? So they could be divided this way. That's a pretty deep lot. And I don't know if most 3 acre lots are that deep.
Well, probably not 3 acre lots, but 20 acre lots and
Yeah.
some of the, you know,
And
eight acre
You have-
lots.
You have a 5 acre lot in a 3 acre zoning district.
Right, currently you can't subdivide that unless you did a PUD, but with this, now suddenly, what did you say, 5 acres?
Yeah.
Now you have 5 lots that could potentially be, and this narrow frontage would offer you more opportunity than if the frontage were required to be larger.
I think it's an interesting question, but I don't know how the answer would change my perspective on which way to go, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it is an interesting question just to try and visualize, but I don't think it would change my perspective, not my answer.
So I flag it just because it is such the lot configuration is so unlike what we looked at in the model neighborhood.
Yeah.
But what I'm hearing is like, well, okay,
Well, but the model neighborhoods were not this,
Low density residential.
like, we would need to find new models.
the only one we looked at was Bentley Park.
Right, and I'm saying, surely in the state of Vermont, there must be other examples of something we can look at that more closely.
That's 50 foot wide.
Well, we're trying to manage it. I understand what you're saying. We're managing a trend. The reason why it's a little bit discrepant, not the right word, but is that we're migrating from a extremely low density residential district where the minimum lot size is 3 acres to a more, moderate density to fit in more density where some low density already exists so that over time it becomes more moderate. And so the model neighborhoods helped us visualize what it might look like in 10 years as some of this filler space started to come in. So yes, they weren't this deep, but they were this narrow.
Right. And that's what was driving the
Yeah.
dimension.
I have a visual in my head too. I know there's I don't know the actual dimensions, but when you were showing this and thinking about the shared drive, I was thinking about when you're going on Route 117 Maple Street, past Maple Street Park, on the right hand side, there's like a little cottage court in what looks like it once upon a time was just one lot and it's been divided, and you drive in, and then there are 4 little houses around it. Do that on this.
If we can get this frontage question.
Exactly.
Resolved.
Exactly.
Where is it?
It's in between the ADL, where IBM is. And it's in between there and Maple Street Park. Or maybe just past Maple Street Park on Route 117 going into Essex Junction.
You could have to look.
I wonder, SJ, if that's the one I sent you pictures of.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
And there's that on that side, and then on the left side, there's another one where it looks like they took some lots. And like one lot and divided in very interesting different ways to accommodate multiple housing in one lot.
because the one I'm thinking of looks like you pull in and there's parking, and then there's just a bunch of buildings with sidewalks going back.
Yeah, that's a different one.
Yeah,
Yeah, so there's some interesting ways in which, like right near the junction,
you can get, yeah.
they've been trying to do some interesting infill.
So there's one more to look at. And that is the dimensions for the PUD, the minimum PUD lots. So this last example, it's the smallest lot, it's 6,000 square feet. So these are the PUD dimensions for lots in the village, the commercial and the low density residential zone. This depicts a lot, it's 30 feet wide, it's 200 feet deep. This is a 4 one-bedroom unit building in a footprint that's 20 by 80 feet. This area, it doesn't consider septic capacity, which would need to be probably considered offsite. Obviously, yeah. So these are the scenarios that are pulled together. Are there any, well, we've already had a pretty good discussion about it. Are there any?
I just want to circle back one more time to the commercial district dimensions. I'm interested, sorry, the commercial mixed use district. I'm wondering, my recollection, I could see the setbacks seem more suburban than we might want in a commercial mixed use district. And I know we talked about this before, and I feel like the rationale was that you don't want to make too big a change from what the current dimensional standards are. But I guess I'm just questioning if that's a good enough reason to not make them smaller.
My
Yes.
recollection was that the rationale was that the default should be so that any parcel can at some point be commercial, which
Well,
I
that was for
disagree with.
I think that was for the frontage width. That's why but I think what,
I mean, these are the same setbacks as the low density residential, and that
Yeah.
just seems counterintuitive to me. I mean, when I think of a commercial mixed use area, I think of more density than I think of in a low density residential area. And so when you looked at the PUD example in the commercial district, they had a 5-foot setback, then like, okay, well, that automatically feels. So anyway, the 20 feet just seems, the setbacks just seem big to me. For what that district is.
I agree.
yeah, I didn't really look at that as part of this. I mean, I don't want to I don't want to use this as a cop out, but it wasn't part of what we were charged to look at. But I think it is still relevant
But we were
because we're
looking at all
changing the
the,
lot sizes.
well, weren't we looking at all these dimensions on all these districts? Or are you talking about,
The charge,
because we changed.
I don't want to be bureaucratic and administrative, but the charge from this was to look at lot sizes and minimum lot sizes and frontages. It didn't say to look at setback requirements. I'm just trying to, I mean, we can look, I mean, we can look at it, but I mean, that's just,
Okay,
we're gonna require more work and research and just to have a basis for why we would make that change and what that change would be.
okay. Well, I will just, I guess, let my statement stand.
Although
I thought
this actually has, so the model neighborhoods we looked at actually does have, I did pull that information. So we would have something to base it on if we want.
You did gather data about setbacks.
Correct.
that we could refer to.
Correct.
Can you go to the next slide that you just went from?
I mean,
There are some numbers in red
Right.
related to
there are
setbacks.
setbacks.
But they're in the PUD column. They're not the standard.
Yep. And they are in the PUD column for the commercial district, and I think one of Wendy's points was that we're really looking specifically at housing and not at the moment like reopening a review on the commercial district. But I understand what you're saying. You're like, why propagate this very spread out, scattered pattern
It's just suburban,
when we have enough?
right? I mean, this is, I feel like the commercial district is, this no man's land thing that we just let go of. And I think it either is, because on the one hand, we talk about it as a village center. And on the other hand, this zoning set, the dimensional standards are suburban. And so we just need to, I think, make a decision of what it is.
Your comment is narrowly on the setbacks in the commercial district.
Yes, I was bringing it back to the setbacks in the commercial district, because that they don't seem correct to me for what the district is,
Or wants
or wants to be. Well, we just went through redefining what it is, and I don't think that these dimensional standards correlate to that.
Especially if we want it to be walkable with more housing.
Right.
And we just cut the minimum lot area by down to a quarter of what it once was. And just to reiterate, I mean, this is all stuff that we already know. Outside of Riverside, the commercial district has the most potential for infrastructure, and is colored orange in the CCRPC future land use map, which means transitional, which means our intention is for that to turn pink.
So this table shows that Chris is recommending a change in the commercial district minimum lot area to a quarter acre. I'm reading that right?
Correct.
And what Chris Brown is saying is, can't we also reduce the setbacks similarly to how we reduce them in the other districts? Where you're also showing a potential change to a quarter acre.
So one thing I could see that would be an easy change would just be for the commercial district, taking the minimum side yard from 20 down to 15 and the rear yard from 25 to 20, since that's what's in the village district now.
Mm-hmm.
And then the only difference would really be the front yard setback.
Yeah, we wouldn't change the front yard setback because
Um,
Well, part of it, that we might have larger vehicles coming through there as a kind of district.
the 50-foot setback is for Mount 18,
right.
but the 30. I mean, I know we've also wanted to make as little changes as possible in the commercial district for reasons that are beyond when I was here. So,
Well, I think I would phrase it differently. We've been hesitant we have found other projects to work on ahead of that since our previous experience, which is not the same as saying we don't want it. It's not that we don't want to do it. I think we need to do it. But I guess what you're suggesting would be a baby step.
Is there comfort with having the setbacks in the commercial district align with the village?
I would be okay with that.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'd be okay with that.
Great. Any other comments on this? I think it's just- because then we're going to get into that. We probably should move on.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you for doing that work.
Yeah, ditto for SJ, that was really helpful.
Oh, great.
Chuck, really quick, because now we're behind.
So the current frontage requirement in the 3 acre zone is 200 feet, which means you have a whole lot of houses out there with 200 feet of frontage. Do you want that 3 acre lot to be able to add 2 more houses or limit them to 1? If you have 80 and you can't, if you have 80 feet of required frontage, you're only allowing someone to add 1 more house to that 3 acre lot. The same is true in the village district. If the current frontage is 120 feet and you change it to 50, and go from 1 acre to a quarter acre, you have the same problem. You're really limiting the number of houses. And I think we're kind of bumping up against the myth of everywhere. You try something, if it doesn't work, you can stop it before it goes everywhere. And right now, we don't have to be looking at theoretical lots. We can go out and look and drive around and with the thing and look at 3 acre lots and truly imagine what it's going to take to be able to turn that 3 acre lot into 3 houses. We're not talking about virgin ground. There's a lot of 1 and 2. There's a lot of 2 acre lots with houses on them in the 3 acre zone that were built before, built before the zone. So I think making that frontage, I don't know why you need a frontage requirement at all in this district. The frontage requirements were not added due to some high-minded ideal. The main ideal, this was nationwide, frontage requirements are added to enforce suburban design.
Okay.
To make sure there was space between houses.
Chris is gonna look into a little bit more about frontage flexibility for us. Thank you.
Well, right. Okay. So the next topic is discussion on revisions to the purpose statements for the commercial and commercial districts in response to comments received at the last planning commission meeting. So holidays made it tricky for the working group to meet. So we did meet yesterday and this morning. So there were updated purpose statements printed out for you here, and I did send it out like at 5 o'clock. So you had plenty of time to take a look at it. Before, yes. So I'll just kind of walk through what the changes were. So for the commercial district, at the last meeting, there were questions about the district being referred to as a designated growth area. So I looked into that. What I'm recommending that it be called the village growth area. That's a term that's defined in the town plan. Village growth areas include village cores, which are Jericho Center, Jericho Corners, Riverside, and the commercial district. It also includes village neighborhoods, which are areas adjacent to the village core, and they include like the orange areas, like going out to the high school. Descriptions of commercial buildings has been added. I think that was something Chris Brown noted. So we've added that. It's emphasizing street-oriented facades and entrances. The existing text on strip development, we're just reusing it verbatim, pulling it over. And then there's a sentence about what we want to see from PUD that's been added. And then the definition of strip development, this is taken from the town plan, and it's similar to, if not identical to, what the state's definition is. Susan or Esther, do you want to add anything? I'm sorry, Sabina or Susan.
No, Wendy did a lot of the initial work on this too.
No, anything more.
Thank you for putting notes in there about preserving the youth.
Mhm.
All right,
So
we also-
village core and village neighborhood have formal definitions. And village core is specific to the district boundaries and not to the area, not to like the triangle that encompasses those districts, but discretely those districts. Is that right?
I
Sorry, those
don't
were
think
two
they,
questions.
well, they're not associated with zoning districts at all.
Okay. So village core, I guess
Village
what is
core in the town plan, village core, or per future land use chapter definition to include Jericho Center, Jericho Corners, Riverside, and the commercial district.
okay, so that's my question. So it's just those
Sorry.
district, it's not the
Oh,
area that
density
kind of
district.
connects those districts.
And then village neighborhood, per the future land use map chapter definition to include areas outside but directly adjacent to the village core.
But is there a difference between a village core and a village center? Because I don't understand why we're suddenly using village core here, where we've been talking about village center for forever.
Well, I can just, what the term that I'm recommending we use is village growth area. And the village growth area, the village growth area says per future land use chapter definition to include the village core and village neighborhoods. And then it goes on to define village core, and then it defines village centers, but village centers don't show up in any of the other
And
definitions.
all the recent work we've been doing, we've been referring to village centers. So that's a definition that you say village center, I know what that means. You
So
say
the
core,
village
right?
centers does not include the commercial district.
Could we just get rid of that clause at the end and just have it say areas designated in the town plan for accommodating future growth and development? And not have the clause at the end, which is confusing.
I was going the opposite direction.
Oh, that's
I was going like, this is zoning, I think this is the place to take the aspirations of the town plan and itemize them into districts so that this is basically saying the commercial district is a member of the village growth area. And the village growth area definition should contain the list of the zoning districts that are identified as the growth area, if that's possible.
And
Because I think what David was doing in that section on the town plan was village and the village district. But that was before we did the Riverside Village Center Village Neighborhood, but now we have a zoning district called the Riverside Village Neighborhood, but I kind of agree with Chris Brown. This isn't the right place to introduce a new term that is amorphous. This is the right place to introduce a new term that is precise, that you can link to on a map, so that you know which rules apply to which parcels.
I guess I feel like that's fine, but I feel like it is precise, but you probably have to go a couple extra steps to get to that precision that you don't need. Because when you go to the town plan, it defines what each of these things are, but you probably don't need to go through that
Right.
extra step.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So we probably just need to take that extra step out of that step and make it in the definition.
so I'm sorry to be dense here. Okay, so we've decided that we're speaking specifically about discrete zones, districts, and what are the boundaries of the village neighborhoods? Or did you just decide to nix village neighborhoods, which makes me sad?
Well, village neighborhoods, they're defined in the land use section. of the town plan, But
We're talking.
I think,
Are we talking just about the new definition, village growth area, and
Yeah.
what is that?
Yeah.
yeah, I just, and I think it's probably what Heidi was saying. Oh, I don't know if this is what you were saying or not, but just delete the village growth area.
I was actually saying you could say it's a village growth area and have it just say is an area designated in the town plan for accommodating future growth development.
Why does it need to say that?
I don't know. What I was saying is where we got all loopy was about including the village
Right, and
village neighborhood.
it's being introduced in this definition, but then if you were gonna be really OCD about it, you would go through each district
Right.
purpose and add that to the districts where it applies. And if it's not really changing anything or doing anything, we could take out the reference to the village growth area and we could take out the definition and just let it read as is. And if somebody says, why are you making the commercial district say mixed use and compact and walkable? We'd say, because that's what it says in the town plan.
Yeah.
That's the rationale for like lots of changes
Yeah.
that we're making.
Yeah, I don't think a village growth area adds anything.
Right. It makes it more, obviously makes it more
Yeah.
confusing. Yeah, for all of us. I don't want to make SJ sad, but I want it to be precise and I don't know that I'm right.
I mean,
But
I love precision. I'm a scientist. The anytime you restrict growth to narrower and narrower areas, I get sad. That's all. So
Right.
was the decision there just to remove village growth area from the commercial mixed use commercial district description and to delete the definition of village growth area?
Yeah, because the only
Okay.
reason that the definition was added is because we were introducing a new term.
Right.
Got it. Thank you.
To no great benefit. So let's get rid of it.
Yeah,
Sure.
but you, why did we want that included?
I think because when
We're like a catch-all for everything where growth was gonna be somewhere in these areas.
it was the rationale for bringing the commercial district more into the fold of why would the commercial district be now responsible for contributing to the housing locations?
Right,
The
it
reason
was
is
justification.
right, and the reason is because that's how it's talked in the town plan. Because the town plan is kind of amorphous. Yeah. It's like, well, we have all these areas and all these areas are really where we want the growth to be. It's a big collection of places. And that was the only way of dealing with them as a collection of places.
But if the question comes up in the context of what we're doing now, we would just say because it's in the town plan.
Because the town plan designates the commercial district as part of the growth areas, which everyone, we've heard from the public for 5 years that that's how people see that
Yeah.
area anyway. Yes.
Great, I'm gonna move on.
Okay, there you go.
Did we?
Uh,
I'm not ready. I'm so sorry, guys. I know you're trying,
Okay.
but I don't. So can we move further down the new text? And so is the new definition for strip development, like that seems fine to me. In the text of the new text, the revised draft, do we need to, if strip development now has a definition in our regs, do you need to also define it in the commercial? It feels like you can just say strip development is prohibited, capitalize strip and development to indicate that it has a definition and be done with it.
Yes, I see what you're saying. So there's.
It's
paragraph-
redundant. You're
Right.
defining
Yeah,
it twice.
It almost looks like and it could lead one to think it's being defined.
I've been advised to keep it in both places.
Okay.
Okay, then just make sure they're identical.
Good question, though.
Yeah,
Good answer.
all right,
Thanks.
all right.
Who is housing that?
All right, the forest district.
I had one question about the forest district.
Yeah,
So in the very, very long first sentence, with lots of pauses as if I had written it myself, one of my favorite ways to write.
but with correctly placed comments.
It's that I like the correct tense, right? The only question I had was, there's a reference to it says moderate temperatures. I ended up underlining that as I went through. Does that moderate temperatures meaning like it could go higher or it could get lower? So it's more about, I just, the question, I didn't understand quite what moderate temperatures meant. And did that capture for what the intention is? And it could be that I just don't understand.
Well, moderate temperatures would be to prevent them from going up.
It prevents extremes.
Yes.
But that's the thing is we have up and down. We have
Right, so it would be moderating.
in both directions.
Yes.
Okay. Is that the intent?
Mhm.
Okay. It could be interpreted as the moderate, meaning don't let it go higher, but what we're experiencing is the rapid changeability and the way that it's not just temperature, but it's rainfall, it's all different things. So I just didn't know if that moderate temperatures was the key point that was. I trust that this group has already had this conversation.
I suspect that the term moderate temperatures has come as a way of not saying global warming.
Right, and we've moved away, however, from global warming to understanding that it's about climate changes that could go in multiple different impacts and not just warming. And so that it felt to me like it was actually more limiting than what. So it could be variance, climate, something about it, because it feels insufficient for.
Like it's too narrow.
Yeah, I mean, because what this doesn't get, and it could be that it's also because I read it so fast.
What do you think what does it not include?
I'm wondering if it's about. We do have the words about resiliency, which is great, but it's ways of, I think if I understand here is that what we know is that a healthy ecosystem, including a healthy forest district, enables us to have the combinations of things that we need to stem multiple changes that are occurring because of temperature changes. Right. And so
would it be like, well, I don't know if this is,
yeah,
it would, I'm just going to say this,
please.
prevent temperature extremes.
Or
Is that also too narrow?
Mitigate.
Mitigate temperature extremes. Mitigate temperature fluctuations.
Extreme temperature fluctuations.
But I don't think it's not changing the fluctuations.
it's not changing hours.
It's changing their effect on us. Right?
Yeah, so-
The fluctuations are happening. This is making them less.
So and so
Damaging.
But I think the forest blocks themselves do moderate the temperatures, which is why it's worded that way.
well they too.
I mean,
If don't
I'm
tell
not
us.
mistaken that if you are in a forest block, inside the forest itself, your extreme high and extreme low are less than if you're in an open field.
Right.
So it is,
Okay.
to a certain extent, it is moderating what you experience if standing in an open field.
I don't think this is a reason then to not move forward with what you have here. I just wanted to make sure I understood the issue. So this is not an objection, it was just
I mean, honestly, I hadn't put that much thought into it. To me, it was just like
right.
controlling
And so-
extreme fluctuations of temperature.
Right, so I think that if those who are more knowledgeable feel like this is the appropriate way to frame it, I am okay with that. I was just really trying to make sure I understood. And that it is rightly framed, because I entirely agree with the notion that whatever we're doing, through all of the zoning changes, we are hoping to be mindful of the ways in which those changes will also impact our ecosystem, which impacts us as well as our natural environment, right? And so I like that we have something that's trying to get to that. I just want to make sure that those who have given it more thought feel like it reflects that.
I still think it's okay, but I will take that into consideration and ask a few people if it could be better or more
Yeah.
clear.
A little expanded.
Yeah.
I did have an issue with forest block,
Oh, the
Uh,
definition.
Definition or?
particularly because it's a contiguous area of forest at any state of secession that is not currently developed. Well, if you have a farmer's field,
That's from the state, that's from Act 171, it's literally right from the
okay,
state definition.
so does that then allow, say the lot that's on the corner of Barber Farm and Brown's Trace that's used to be running cattle and is now kind of left fallow, does that now become a forest block? Does much of the property along Skunk Hollow that used to be running cattle and pasture land has been run fallow for the last 15 years now become a forest block? At what point does fallow pasture land or any land suddenly become a forest? Because all of those are in the initial stages of
They're
succession.
not in the forestry district. And
This
only
doesn't necessarily define that.
true,
It defines them as contiguous.
right, and also the place where the zoning regulations activate the idea of a forest block is in the forestry district or potentially in the NRO.
But those are
PUD,
mapped.
right, they're mapped, and the PUD regulations would say your open space, I don't know if the open space says to include forest blocks, but I think those are the places where forest block matters. Sure, you're right, the along Skunk Hollow potentially, I don't know if you're right, but let's say you are right, and that could be, it doesn't really matter in the regulation because forest block itself, like I said, is only.
But it's defined as that area, so that means an adjacent area can become treated as a forest block again. If you want to get really pedantic about it, which sometimes I do, I realize that. It opens up an awful lot of doors to eminent domain saying, sorry, yes, you have this land, it's owned for that, but it's been fallow for the last 10 years, so now it's a forest block. And I'm not sure we want to do that. But I'll turn to Chris on that as the expert of what is or is not in the forest block.
So, but I hear you though, what you're saying is if you could be assured, as Susan's interpreted, that the use of this forest block is only within the lands that are currently in the forest district, that there was that deal.
Well, or in the NRO,
Yeah,
that you're gonna get into the NRO.
so maybe there's a way of putting that in the definition, right?
Yep.
So a contiguous area of forest at any stage of development within the forestry district that is not currently developed. It's really like,
Well, it'd have to be within the forestry district or within.
yeah.
Map or
Yeah.
included in the NRO map.
Yeah, but if you
But I
modify,
know,
That's not what a forest block is.
right,
Right.
And we have special restrictions on what you can do in a forest block.
we don't. We have special restrictions about what you can do in a mapped forest block that's in the NRO. We don't currently, but we're about to, because we're gonna incorporate it because of this Act 171. And we have regulations about what you can do in the forestry district, many of which relate to protecting forest blocks. And we have guidance in a PUD that forested areas should be included in your open space, but it's not necessarily like a mandate. And other than that, I don't know what we regulate around the forest law.
I don't know if, because this is, I think I got this from the state, and I don't know if the state has more guidance on what that means. I'd have to look at that. Okay.
My
But I
one
have-
comment, sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
It's unrelated. Is just the two places where the one place where you use forest block and the one place where you use forest fragmentation. I would just note to capitalize them or whatever formatting you use to indicate that that's a word with a definition or a term with a definition.
Yeah. That's actually a weakness throughout the regulations. Like doesn't do that consistently at all, but yeah, we try to catch it all the time. So thank you, SJ. Okay, I think we have to move on. Any other comments? Since we all didn't get a lot of time to take a look at this, we can send you any other additional
Yeah.
comments first?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, was that helpful?
No, that was helpful. And then what I was just going to say is I'll look up, because I want to better understand what the implications of that wording is. But I'll look up that.
Thank you.
These next steps really haven't changed from the last meeting. So, I mean, nothing's really changed. So it's still working with Chris Flynn on talking to him about density incentives for small houses, how we might be able to incorporate that. I'm trying to find a way to do some mapping work for the NRO forest block information from the Conservation Commission, either through CCRPC or with an intern. I'm still trying to figure that out. And then other amendments we've those have come up in previous discussion today. So those are just other things that need to come up. Great.
Okay, any additional comment? Chuck? For our public for evening,
I'm good. Thank you.
you're good. Okay.
Shock me.
Thank you.
I think we're all shocked.
We tired you out. Okay, town reports.
Oh, well, I have one quick report first. Oh, town panel report.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So I don't know how much I've talked about this before, but we've been trying to get an exception from the state so that we can work with CRPC to do a more quicker procurement to get the Riverside Village development scenarios and fiscal analysis underway. We just got approval from PACU to do that. So I'll be working with them to hammer out an MOU that'll go to the select board and we can get that done.
Awesome. You say that very lightly, and yet that is a big deal.
Yeah.
And let's just be clear, that is a really big and
Yeah.
amazing deal that sort of sets forward lots of ability for flexibility that we don't have otherwise, so thank you.
Yeah, I mean, it's just for this one project and their
And
approval
still,
made clear it was just
right.
for this one project, but I mean, it was a bit of work to give them the justification they needed to do that, so that's
Yep.
great.
Awesome, congratulations.
So for someone who's dealt with state procurement
Oh,
rules, I'm sure.
Right, it's,
Yeah.
yeah,
Okay,
that
does
is
anybody else have any other
not
updates?
easy left.
Okay,
I'll just say on behalf of Wendy, who is the DEI committee rep, there are two book groups happening this winter. One is from the DEI committee, which is coming up in January, and there's information online. They're calling theirs the Open Book Group, which I think is a great play on words. And the Conservation Commission is continuing the Sustainability Book Group this year, and there's information out there also on that book. So that's two ways to participate in readings. And then I guess Heidi will probably mention the food.
Yes, yeah, those who may not know, there is a community dinner tomorrow night at Mansfield High School hosted by the Food Hub. They had a whole bunch of volunteer slots open, but I think those are done now, and it's from 5:30 till 8. And it's donation only, and it's just a great way to highlight the sort of all the richness of our local foods. And it's one of those events that really about just community building, which is one of the things that we have talked about here about the importance of community building. So if anybody can go, it would be a really great time to be able to continue to talk about town plan, upcoming need for infrastructure, a little bit, but mainly just to make sure that people know who you are. So there's a face to the name, so as people start hearing about the changes that we're making and proposing for zoning, there's a face to the name, which in a relationship. And
It makes me think about name tags. They
right?
use name tags at those events,
I don't remember.
but it also makes me wonder, like, when we go to stuff like that,
We should have
we
one.
have a little sticky name tag so that people,
We could get the wooden ones with magnets. They're-
Oh, I love
yeah,
those.
like, should all
I'll work on that.
all town committee
Yes.
people and select
Yeah.
board members, when you go to big events like that, have a name tag.
Yeah.
I think that's a great idea, Susan.
I can look into where my other organization got theirs, and we can maybe put the little snowflake logo on it. And
We have to put it on the capital budget. That's our video.
Very close to-
No, I know, I'm kidding.
All right, yeah, I'll look into the cost of that.
Okay, but thanks for the reminder, Heidi.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It looks like it's gonna be just
They're
everything.
gonna have live music.
That I don't know.
Yep, from the MMU jazz band.
Oh, thank you.
Nice.
That I missed out on.
I've helped with the cooking today, and
Oh,
it
did you?
smelled fantastic.
Okay, any other updates?
Well, just quickly for the wastewater task force, we did get the 60% preliminary engineering report from Du Bois and King. And that is going to be discussed at wastewater task.
Well, that's an unfortunate timing.
Is it good? Is it bad?
There's plenty to talk about.
It's funny to talk about, I thought it was overall good. There were a couple things it didn't have that I wish it had, but
It's dense.
it's dense, yeah, it's a lot of,
Yeah.
We're paying a lot, paying by the pound for paper, right?
yeah.
Apparently.
All right, any other liaison updates?
Reminder, Eric, you just put it right back on your calendar, January 20th, the town budget review meeting. Doors open at 5 o'clock for tabling from 5 to 6. We're encouraging folks who are tabling to bring kind of a sweet treat to help encourage folks to come and hang out at your table. If anyone is available to volunteer and help at the meeting and is interested in doing so, let me know. We've got a couple of jobs that we could use a body for, and that's whether you plan on attending remotely or in person. You can reach out to me about that.
It will be tabling. For us and Chris, for the rest of the team to know. Wendy and I worked on some updated handouts and display about the changes through the municipal planning grant, the work that we're doing.
Tabling for the wastewater task force.
Okay, and I will not be bringing a sweet treat, Miss Public Health.
I think I put in the email.
Can you see my iron?
Apples.
What about a
I
savory
said
treat?
apples in the email that I sent. I was
Okay.
thinking about that, Heidi.
I
Although
just
to be
didn't say.
clear, there is nothing wrong with sugar. Glucose is or glycogen at least is your brain's favorite source of fuel. There's no reason to be afraid of sugar.
Okay. Yes, I will offer up some suggestions on additional enticements.
Thank you, Heidi and Wendy, for
I'm gonna bring
preparing
my
that,
syrup.
the handout. That's really good.
Just straight up. Straight up.
Years of code.
Sabina, were you gonna say something else?
I'm sorry.
No, it's not relevant.
You sure?
Yes.
Okay. Other business. Anything else? Any new items to put on our table, on our future agendas? That's what other business is supposed to be for, by the way. Okay, so wrap up and planning for February 3rd. We'll be debriefing from January 20th. And we'll be hearing back from Chris about all of the hard, gnarly questions we put to him tonight.
Okay.
And we'll be working on the PUD topic and then
Yep.
the other small housing incentive topic.
Yes.
So continuing work along.
And capital budget.
No. Because we're gonna do our email to them prior to the 15th. The select board. And then Paula wants to reconvene on the capital budget.
So I'm getting worse, the working group that we're trying to put together to start working on.
We may have an update on what the working groups.
You think the working group will convene before that?
We may.
Maybe. Yeah.
Do we have any new plans to meet with the select board again? Like, when are we due for our next joint meeting?
Yeah, that's a good question.
So,
Probably, I think
When did we meet last?
in the fall, but so I think didn't they say like after March when all the new people are like staff on committees and terms are renewed and stuff like that. So we don't have it yet scheduled, but maybe I could remind Eric about that, or you could remind Paula about that we'd be looking for that in the like April.
I
March,
imagine it would be after
timeline.
all the.
Yeah,
Yeah.
after town meeting. Because town meeting, some people won't even be on their committees anymore. That's what they said.
Mhm.
But that would be one of the milestones, would be after March town meeting. So,
Okay, I mean, I don't know what that's to do with the select board planning commission business.
I think the select board has a lot going on.
No, I'm not saying we should do that, I'm just confused about your rationale, but
well, they're gonna be new members.
it's not, you know, it's
right, there could be new select board members, there could be new planning
That's true.
members.
That's true, right, I'm at the 909 part of my brain.
Okay.
It's time to move to close this meeting.
Okay, Heidi made a move to adjourn. Sabina, would you like to
I'll
second?
second.
Okay, Sabina will second. All those in favor of adjourn, please say yes.
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 Okay, thank you very much. SJ, hope you feel better.
Thank you. Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Thank you.